Hello, good evening, friends, or good morning if it's morning wherever you're to. If you are a long-time viewer, welcome back, and if you are a new viewer, welcome. Thank you so much for all the time you are spending watching this. My name is Paul Murphy, and in this particular video, I have today, 9th of November 2022. This has just been delivered, and I've had the first proof back of Bitter Realities, and I wanted to do some readings from it, sort of en masse, as opposed to the individual entries in it. And I thought at the same time what I've done is I've popped the album in to the CD player. I'm not sure how this is going to work out, but the intention is to read some of the pieces to you, and then also to play a little smattering clips of the music, because obviously I'm going to be just speaking in my speaking voice. But you can hear roughly how the songs were recorded originally and played live. If you're new here, I should just explain perhaps that Bitter Realities it's the lyric booklet to my, I don't want to say how many years ago, album of the same name, Bitter Realities, which is kind of my protest album, social commentary album. Songs that I wrote from experience accumulated. I spent a lot of years homeless, intermittently homeless, but I guess I think I left the army in '79, so maybe late '79, I guess. I was itinerant for a couple of years, and these were songs written about my experiences in those years, people I met in those years, things I viewed in those years. And there's actually a huge, I went to, as per a lot of my lyric and song anthologies, I went to do the notes in the back of the book just to give a rough idea of the recording dates, and I think it runs to about 3,000 words. It's almost like my autobiography. I think there's a lot of stuff bottled up there. It's kind of spewing out. I realise that this may make hard listening. They are very uncompromising works, and obviously if you're turning in to listen, if you've got used to me reciting my love poems, etc., or just my speaking ones, which you also seem to like, yeah, the subject material here is a little bit harsher, but they're all love songs in a way. They are odes from me to the people who are not here anymore and have been here for a very long time. And as I say, at one point in there, only occurred to me a couple of years back, but as long as these songs exist, and now that I'm quite ill and unable to play live anymore, they become prose works. As long as they exist, the people that I wrote them about will always exist as well. Okay, so how to do this? So, well, I'll just go in a little bit. This may take two files to do. The album itself is 75 minutes long, and I see I've already talked for 4 minutes now. That's the amplifier playing up. This is going well, isn't it? Let's see what happens. So many times before. Running away seemed the only answer. Her parents made so many demands. Do well at school, don't stay out late. Her life was not in her own hands. Tidy your bedroom, don't wear those shoes. And children should be seen and not heard. She tries to tell them they're pushing her too hard. Though she speaks, they don't hear a word. So one night she runs off to the city, not knowing what she wants or what she'll find. With her savings in her suitcase, she casts caution to the wind, not thinking twice on what she's left behind. But soon she finds out there's no streets of gold, only squalor and filth and despair. And home, sweet home, is a roach-ridden flat, and misery hangs heavy in the air. Each day she uncovers more harsh facts of life. Food is dear and her savings are small. As the money wanes, she thinks of her parents, and she's tempted to give them a call. But she says, no way am I going back. They're not going to chain me again. She resolves to go forwards no matter what. She's certain her fortunes will change. But though she looks hard, jobs are harder to find. She's only just 15, and it shows. She begs and she pleads, but they all shake their heads. It's the same wherever she goes. Soon her purse and her soul are both empty, her savings and her energy all spent. She can't even remember 2 meals in a day, and her landlord's demanding the rent. She's hungry and cold, she's full of dismay. She's so sad and has no one to tell. Then she shudders with revulsion as a thought comes to mind. She realizes she's got one thing to sell. She screams to herself, I won't do it. But she knows that there's no other way. She promised to save herself for Mr. Right. Never dreamed that she'd do it for pay. But when you've sunk as low as she has, when you've nothing, no hope and no one, you don't turn away when the devil says hello, and she knows that it has to be done. She makes herself look as best as she can, tries not to think ahead, and hits the streets. She's nervous and frightened, not knowing what to expect. Her destruction now almost complete. The other girls see her, and they shake their heads. They've seen this so many times before. There's no Prince Charming to save any of these girls. He doesn't visit the hungry or poor. A voice behind her says quietly, hey darling, and all of her instincts scream, run. Then scum that looks like a man says, how much? And she knows that the moment has come. He's sweaty, he smells, he's fat and he's bald, and he pants as he runs his hands over her skin. She cries in abhorrence as his mouth finds her breasts, and in pain as he forces his way in. She tries hard not to think of what's happening, as she's used to relieve this man's lust. But she can't hold it back, and as his seed flows, she cries with revulsion and disgust. While she's sick in the gutter, he pays her, then makes his way home to his wife, with no second thought for the 15-year-old child that he's just desecrated for life. Slowly, painfully, she makes her way home. She's bleeding, she's weeping, she's torn. She feels so dirty, abused and ashamed. She wishes she'd never been born. For nearly 2 days she sits naked on the floor, staring into space but seeing no stars, not feeling the cold, feeling nothing at all. Her body was hurt, but her mind bears the scars. She thinks vague thoughts about days gone by, of parents, of school, of her friends. She shivers with revulsion at what she's gone through, and she knows that the memories must end. She's lost all her pride. She's lost all her hope. she's lost all her will to resist, and slowly, silently, her suffering stops as she slices the knife through her wrists. So, I really don't know if I want to give you a clip of the music now. That's it's difficult for me to even to recite it. Even after all these years, I wrote that in 1986. I'd ceased to be homeless at that point. In fact, I was in my first ever relationship. Hello, Sue, if you're out there. And I'm sorry. I was very young. What kind of past did I have that prepared me for going into a relationship, really, you know? And so that is taken from... I was homeless, first of all, in the town where I grew up in. It wasn't the town where I was born, but I grew up there from just a few weeks old. I'd been in the army. I left 4th of February 1979, the day Sid Vicious died, or the day I found out Sid Vicious died. I was picking up a newspaper at the train station and thinking an era had ended, like, you know. I was going to leave the army. I kind of had a little band, started getting together in the army. The Campbell Rats. Anyone else out there remember those? Wayne Reese, whatever happened to you? And I'd come home on leave, you know. I think I was earning like £3 a week, or I was getting £3 a week and stuff, you know. All this regimented regime and stuff. I mean, I only joined the army in the first place because I'd been homeless at the time. I was homeless when I was 15, and the army said, "We'll give you a bed for the night, sonny." Just sign on the dotted line here. And then punk had happened, and disco, and it's strange thinking back on the albums that we listened to in the rec room, you know. I first discovered Meatloaf's Bad Out of Hell there. I don't want to advertise people's other albums, so. But it'd be very strange, my memories of that summer of 78, the Sex Pistols LP, and the Grease soundtrack, you know. I come home on leave and everyone seemed to be having a good time with girlfriends and stuff like that, you know. Then I came out and, you know, maybe it was a metaphor, I came out on the day. I don't know if there's a Don McLean version of, a punk version of Don McLean's, you know, on the day that the punk music died. Other thing, Buddy had a little bit more musical resonance than Sid did, you know. There's a difference between talent and image. Sometimes you get both together and everything works out. But as we all did at some point, the dates are hazy, you don't tend to keep diaries when you're living out of a black bin liner, you know. I gravitated towards London. I'd been there a lot in the army, you know, on leave and stuff like that. And, ended up in Soho, jeez. I remember my first, I can still see it now, I can smell it now, even now. I mean, this is, 40 years later, I guess, you know. The smell there and the lights and everything. I guess it's like I've just been writing in Prairie Winds, you know. I've just been writing this rather epic poem called Prairie Winds. And I'm talking in there about young girls getting off the bus into Vegas, you know. And it didn't occur to me that, you know. But anyway, so that song there is about, it's an amalgamation. I can see two faces that come to mind when I do that. You'd see it everywhere, like, you know. I mean, I was there but for the grace of God. As I say in the notes at the back of the book, I was lucky in that I had so I kind of knew, I had to defend myself a little bit. I wasn't, and I'd been homeless, So I was homeless at 15, and then when you're in the army, you're homeless as well, really. And fending for yourself. It was quite interesting when I joined up, actually, because I think I was like 5'2" when I joined the army, and I just shot up to 5'10" because I had food for the first time in my life, just or regular food at least, It was a luxury to be able to turn down food, I remember saying, I don't want breakfast. I never used to like breakfast and stuff, because I'd never had it in my life before. But in the army, they make you have breakfast. I don't know if they still do, but they did that. Doesn't matter if you skip the other 2 meals, you've got to have your breakfast. And it's just a drag, because you had to get your boots and kit ready and stuff, And it was just these massive great things of cornflakes. Gosh knows what it must have been like cleaning it out of the bottom. And this huge array of toasters. It must have looked like a series of rocket launchers, I guess, And this awful margarine. Oh my gosh, that awful. I mean, everything was done on the cheap, defence cuts even. What are we talking here? 77, I guess. 76, 77. And the luxury of being able to turn down food, knowing there was another meal coming, But I was in there with all these guys, and they all joined up as well at the same time in our intake. And some of these guys were really massive, great big huge and everything like this, I won't mention their names, but I'm seeing a lot of them now. As my mind, the Rolodex in my mind is Rolodex. Ask your grandparents if there are any youngsters watching this. And then, their parents drove off, and in there, these great big communal bathrooms, they had communal toilets that they had at night. You'd go there and you'd hear all these guys in there sobbing away, these massive great guys there. And you would go to the bathroom, and from behind the doors you could hear, and because they'd never, these huge guys, and they'd all their life, Mummy'd put their meals on the table at X time of the day, and if they were cold, they'd turn the heating on, and and their clothes were all ironed for them and everything, and they'd never had to do anything. Just come home from school and stuff, and everything was done for them, But they were devoid of money, and they were lost in these initial weeks and everything. But I'd been self-sufficient since I was about 10, I guess, really. Both my parents were quite hideous drunks. I didn't know my father too much. I don't know when they got divorced. I do remember the night it broke up, and my mother stoved his head in with a socket spanner set, and I was in the bedroom next door in my bedroom. He'd kicked her out, or she'd left, and he'd got a girlfriend. Anyway, let's not go down that route. Story for another day, song for another day, I guess. But I had to come home from school, which is like a 4-mile walk. I went back once in a car, and I was just curious to find talking. Naughty amplifier just wants to interrupt. And calm down there. And a Ouija board there. Someone's coming through. Stop speaking about me. So I would walk to school, and I'd have to walk home from school after doing a day at school. And then, in winter, I'd have to get the fire in. Now, as a parent of a 8 and 10-year-old, insanity. How I didn't burn the house down, how I didn't burn the neighbourhood down, because you didn't dare not get the fire lit when they came home from work if there wasn't a nice warm house for them to walk into. Man. You just got the fire lit, and they both smoked, and they had these lighters, and you had to put lighter fluid in. I'm recording this now for the first time in 30 years, like a little therapy session, really, isn't it? And here I am speaking about other people. I'll finish this anecdote. But I remember anything to get it, you're there with the coal and everything and the wood. And I remember spraying lighter fluid in it, desperately trying to get it. Because you spray the lighter fluid in, and what would happen is the flame would come out into the nozzle, like that. Biro pens were the other thing. I found that if you put biro pens on there, because they're thick plastic, so they lit and they burned. There's like a little firelighter going on there. Anyway, where was I going with this? Yeah, so I've been, looking after myself from 10 until they hoiked me out of there when I was in my late 15s, I guess. And so I was a bit luckier when I got to London, and I'd had a smattering of musicality at that point, so I was able to support myself, and I was a good worker as well. But you would see these, these poor, naive lambs turning up at the train stations and everything. And there were all these leeches, and it's probably no different today. I'm not a big fan of CCTV. And if you're in England, you know what it's like. If you sneeze, it's recorded on a camera somewhere, Well, obviously, here I am now recording it myself now. It's a little bit too much now, we're not far off of putting barcodes on babies at birth. But there was very little of that in those days, and there would be all these leeches and parasites waiting at the train stations to take these people in. And the ones that got past those first couple of hurdles, they had a couple of pounds in their pocket when they turned up and everything. They'd had a row with mum or whatever, There were some kindly people that would take them in. I was in Hammersmith Broadway. I wonder if it's still there, just behind the Hammersmith Odeon. There was a little all-night cafe there, which was a rare thing in those days. When I was in London, but where I came from. And so I got a job working in there, just cleaning up the floor. Oh gosh, you have to try and mop the floor. The grease was so thick. You could have got a paint scraper and just scrape the grease up off of it. No wonder England was a heart attack capital of the world for a few years. No wonder I became a vegetarian. But what I did was I worked all night there cleaning up the Dixies and everything and the cups and making sandwiches ready for the morning, and then I would go out so I was warm at night. And then in the day I would just hit the libraries and just crash in the libraries. That's where I got in the habit of reading all the newspapers and everything, People used to say, well, you're pretty clever or whatever, and you must have done well at school. So I left school at 15 and didn't have a qualification in my name. I just learned it all living in libraries and everything, thirst for knowledge and stuff. Anyway, I've talked far too much about just one song. I thought I'd be on song 5 or 6 by now. So I wrote that. That is an ode, and it's called So Many Times Before, to those people then, and it's still going on today. It'll never stop. I will play you just a little clip of the music. The music's pretty stark as well. Running away seemed the only answer. Her parents made so many demands. Do well at school, don't stay up late. But life was not in her own hands. Tidy your bedroom, don't wear those shoes, and children should be seen and not heard. She tries to tell them they're pushing her too hard, but though she speaks, they don't hear a word. That is actually the only time I ever recorded that song. There's no overdubbing on it. The guitar is slightly out of tune on it. It was just, I sang it in concert quite often through 86 to about 88, I guess. I don't think I've done it live since 88. But that's the only time I ever recorded it. It was just because when I recorded it there, this album was recorded sometime in 19... The Rough Mix CD says when the recording dates on it, I think it was 98, that I put that album together. So I come back to it then and was recording that, but it was very, very difficult for me after that point to, as you get older, you write these things, and as you get older, harder to go back to it, because I can't speak for anyone else, I can only speak for myself. But as I've got older, and not just now, today, dying of a neurological disease like I am, but from 30 and 40, etc., going on, as I ticked off those milestones, I think of all the people that never made it that far. Well, I quote a couple of my books, is the first guy from my school to die, a guy called Noel Storm. And he was 17, I think, I mean, lost a few people in the army, mainly when they came out and couldn't handle civilian life. Anyway, let's get on to number 2, shall we? I've had to rejig the album slightly here, because the lyrics on the album, the songs are constructed to flow into each other. But in a lyric booklet, it works in a different manner, of course, so if two songs have got the same structure and same cadence, I've jigged them around a little bit, put something else in the middle. But this was indeed track 2 on the album, it's track 2 in the book, track 2 in the book. And this is Until We Meet Again. Sorry if my eyes are going off, it's because I'm looking at the viewfinder to see the time there. I mean, let me just move up a bit so I've got some better oxygen going in with my dodgy diaphragm these days. Until we meet again. Call me comfort, call me dead, draw a blank, my eyes are red. Call me sometimes, call me now, make me smile, don't tell me how. Read me stories, read my will, eat the dream, send me the bill. Touch me softly, touch me swift, let me guess, it's not a gift. Say you see me, say you don't, do you do, or will you won't? Know me did you, know me then, know me in amongst the men. Hail me warmly, hail me high, show me yours and make me cry. Kiss me 2 times, kiss me 4, skin me dead, then do me more. Have you ever, have you not? Was it cold or was it hot? Have you with me or with him? Have you let the wish begin? Here's the poison, where's the pen? It beats the sword, but not the man. What's the prison? What's the crime? What was yours? How much is mine? Write the story, write the end. Make the murder be your friend. Get the sentence, get the verse. Steal the rhyme and damn the curse. Now it's over, now it's gone. It was there, now it's beyond. If you keep it well. We'll meet up again in hell. I'm so sorry. I was going to sort of read that in a poetic cadence, but one kind of got swept up into the tumult of the lyrics there. That was a more ambiguous number. That was a little bit later on, and most of the works in this book or on the album are very direct, like the song you heard before. It's that. Later on, I won't come to it on this file, but She's Cried a Million Tears. Daddy, please don't. I'm going to find that very hard to do. But at a certain point, people have said to me several times over the years, probably several hundred, well, you don't do the protest stuff anymore. And that's not true. I never left that kind of material behind. But if you look at the first one, you've heard this so many times before, although even today, as I'm saying, I've touched on it in Prairie Winds. So here we go, 35 years later. But when you've targeted it direct into the bullseye, if you do it twice, you're like Robin Hood. the next arrow just goes into the shaft of the first one. So it can be better then, if you want to keep hitting the target, instead of just putting the arrow into the shaft of the one that's already in there, to aim a little bit wider at the target and pick the numbers off that way. Okay, and so that's what that song there was about. So it should be track 2 on the CD. It looks like I've got a few minutes left that I can play. Sound better?
Call me dead, draw blank, my eyes are red. Call me sometimes, call me now. Make me smile, don't tell me how. Read my stories, read my will. Eat the dream, send me the bill. Touch me softly, touch me swift. Let me guess it's not a gift, yeah. Say you see me, say you don't. Do you do, or will you won't? Know me, did you know me then? Know me in amongst the men. Hail me warmly, hail me high. Show me yours, make me cry. Kiss me 2 times, kiss me 4. Skin me dead, then do me more.
You can see when I was reciting it that I just went straight back 35 years into you know, how it was. It's amazing what's ingrained in the psyche, isn't it? I should just note that that piece is actually a discourse. So one verse is male, one verse is female. So it's 2 people having that conversation and converging at a certain point now. Okay, I've got about 1 minute and 30 seconds left on the file here. So what should we talk about? How's your day been? You've been very kind. I'd hoped to, with your time, I'd hoped to be a bit more succinct, and I thought I will get through about 4 pieces, or maybe even 5, 6 pieces, and then little clips of the music there, and then talk a little bit about the works, because I sometimes catch bits of. I'll put a video up sometimes, and someone will send me a link and say, you know, someone's talking about this song of yours. Is this right? Did you really write it about this and everything? And it's so I'll read it and I think, well, you know, that's pretty accurate, or it's wildly inaccurate, or whatever. But my songs mean what they mean, and my poetry as well means what it means to the person who receives it. So there is no right or wrong answer. If someone has been touched by anything that I've done enough to think about putting interpretation on it, then I have no issue whatsoever with that. Where I was going with this is this work here. It obviously doesn't apply in here. It's probably one of the only books that I've got, except my common Jewish books, I guess, because the songs in here are just targeted so direct, you know. Right, this is file 1 of Bitter Realities. I will be a bit speedier in the next ones. You've been very, very kind and generous with your time. God bless you all.